This is the final blog post for my solo performance module in third year. The show's done and dusted, completely finished, which is baffling. So I've got a few pointers to talk about. I want to talk about my influences, how the show went, the audience reactions, what I would change if I wanted to change anything, and then my final thoughts about the module. So basically, my influences throughout this whole process, I had three main influences. They were Laurie Anderson, Victoria Melody, and Adam Page. Laurie Anderson was extremely beneficial for the whole beginning creation process for me. I think she'd probably be one of my main practitioners because I was struggling for things to do, like what I would do in solo, and then I came across Laurie Anderson, and she obviously mixed music and theatre, and the only kind of mixing of music and theatre I knew was musical theatre. So she really showed me how it could be done without using jazz hands and ballads, and I really liked it. And I think she was the person that spurred on this whole trying to make music and theatre. So yeah, she would definitely be one of my main practitioners. But as my concepts developed and as my ideas developed, I moved on to find this loop box, which was the most prominent discovery of my solo performance because my whole performance was based around this loop box. And then once I found that, I started looking at practitioners that use the loop box, theatre performers, musicians, and then I stumbled across Adam Page. And he proved to be the most useful practitioner that I'd found for the musical side of it, because I'd never used a loop box, I'd never seen a loop box, I'd just seen it on a YouTube video, so I had no idea how they worked. So he not only taught me how to use the loop box itself, but also how to integrate it into theatre, because he'd tell a story and then kind of use the music to explain the story, and I think that was something that I used quite a lot in my performance. And then Victoria Melody was the other one. I went to see her show Hairpiece, and I think she didn't use music as such, but the way that she performed was something enormously influential for my piece. She was very relaxed and kind of had banter with the audience, and although I wasn't necessarily being like comedian in mine at all, I didn't really want it to be like a presentation where it'd be really formal and strict, and seeing Victoria Melody kind of put examples of how I could be fun with it and kind of have conversations with the audience. So they were my influences throughout the whole performance and the whole process of solo. So how the show went. Well, I thought that the show went really, really well. It was one of the best times that I'd run it. I'd had so much trouble with the loop box. So much trouble. It drove me up the wall. And trying to get the timings right and trying to find instruments and beats and objects that would make suitable noises and percussions was virtually impossible. And then to fit them into my narrative was even harder. But yeah, I got there, and although the tech went terribly wrong and I really struggled with making the music and the narrative kind of flow together without it feeling like two separate things, but it seemed to fit. At the last minute, literally the night before the actual performance, I kind of realised that I kind of was doing a show within a show. So the musical thing was kind of separate to it. No matter how hard I tried to integrate it, it was never going to be a seamless sort of flowing movement between the two. So I thought, well, I'll make sure that it's separate. So in the performance, I added like a sort of like, listen and I'll perform for you. So it was kind of like a performance within a performance kind of thing. And I quite liked it. So that was something new that I'd only put in the night before, but made it flow a little bit better in my eyes. The reactions from the audience was insane. I didn't really expect it because everyone cried after the performance. I came out and I expected my family to be a little bit upset because, I mean, the whole premise of the show is me leaving home. So I expected them to be a little bit teary-eyed, if anything. But I came out to find 90% of the audience in floods of tears. And I got worried, but they said that it hit a raw nerve with them, which is something I maybe had thought that it might do, but I didn't think that my performance would do that to them. But I'm glad that it kind of did, because a lot of them, obviously, they're not in my situation, so they didn't necessarily relate to it from leaving home and going out and trying to find the industry. But what they kind of saw it as was they took my story and then put it to their situation of leaving uni. And obviously, this is the last performance. A lot of people have already finished or are finishing with the next day or week. And I think that just hit a raw nerve with them. And it made me think about, like, one of my earlier blog posts was how I wanted to steer away from autobiographical work because I didn't think that it would be relevant to other people, and it was sort of like narcissistic and all self-indulgent. That's the word. I thought it was really self-indulgent, and it wouldn't relate to all the other audience members who are watching. But the reaction from the audience kind of proved that, even though if you can't relate directly to the storyline or what's being told in the solo show from an autobiographical point of view, you can take that and, in whatever way, relate it to your life. If it's not direct, you will see parallels, and that's where the entertainment of autobiographical comes in, as well as also watching someone else's life. So that was really, really powerful for me to see other people sort of engage with my life, but also relate it to theirs as well. And that was really, really rewarding in a way, to see that my work had touched them like that. That was really nice. What I would change. What I found that I'd done is I'd written the script quite early on, because I came up with this idea quite early on, so I had a good idea of what I wanted to say. And I'd practiced a lot before the show, which I'm glad about, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I like to have it prepared, which essentially worked really, really well because nothing really went wrong. However, I felt that because I'd rehearsed so much, that the words that I was saying that were once so raw, and I couldn't read them off the paper without getting a little bit teary, especially towards the end where I'd be like, I'm leaving home. When I first wrote that, it took a good couple of times reading it through. I'd get really upset with it, and I liked that it was kind of came from the heart, and it made me really upset, and I was hoping that would come out in my performance. But I think because I'd rehearsed so much that they were just words, and actually in the final performance I didn't cry. Everyone else did and I didn't. And I think if I could change anything, I wouldn't have rehearsed too much. I would have liked to have left it a little bit more raw, a little bit more spontaneous, so maybe it was less structured and a little bit more emotion could have come through. But overall, apart from that, I don't think I would have changed anything else. I think it was just nice. And my final thoughts about solo. Well, I started off hating it. I'd pretty much found a theatre company to move to. I was terrified. I really didn't think that I would ever be able to do a solo show. And I thought I'd chosen the wrong module. But I think it's one of the best things I've ever done. I've loved the challenge, and I'm actually, no matter what happens now, I'm actually really, 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 really proud of myself that I managed to pull a show off together that people have actually enjoyed. Yeah, it's taught me a lot by myself. That I'd never done acting properly. I know I do a drama degree, but I'd always just done musical theatre. I'd been like I kind of hid behind my whole music and theatre, and I was just a chorus member. So being put in the spotlight and being centre stage and actually having to act, although I did do a bit of singing, I never thought I'd do it, or I never thought I'd enjoy it. Yeah, I think it's the best way I could have ever finished my degree, and I don't think I would have changed it for the world. Yeah, so that's my solo experience done, and so is my degree. Cool. Bye.